Hi, I'm Nathan Shelton, currently in cloudy and rainy Chicago.
I'm Brian Arata, and I'm in sunny California. So I think we got a bit of an opposite thing going on here. You're in the dark, gloomy glooms over there. I got the sunlight shining on me, so that's where we're at.
Yeah, it's the odd couple.
Yes. I think
the cross-country odd couple here.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, we're excited to get together and chat. Brian and I have been friends for a long time, a very long time, it seems like now. 20 years or so, right? Like,
at least,
close?
yeah. Feels like that and longer, so... Not that it's been bad. That sounds like it's been bad. It's not been bad. It's not been bad.
We both started out in Missouri, and both in the entertainment industry, and then his life took him to Los Angeles, and my life took me to Chicago, and we don't get a chance to connect very often. And when we do, it's usually a good time. And we decided we would go ahead and make a show about it and include you on us getting together and chatting.
Yeah. Oh man, I just always have fun chatting with you about anything, movies, theater,
conspiracy
theories, dog walking, what have you, anything. The glory days of Springfield, Missouri, and Vandervoort Theater, what have you. So,
how many people could say the glory days of Springfield, Missouri?
Not too many.
Brad Pitt could say it.
And I was just going to say John Goodman, but yes, very few. Very few. So.
Yeah. Although I think John Goodman probably has a better viewpoint of Springfield, Missouri. He's happier about his time because he's not from there. He just went to college.
Right.
He had a good time, and he still goes back and supports the university that we went to. In fact, Tent Theater has changed their. Now they're getting ready to open their new amphitheater that they've been building. Where Tent Theater, the summer stock that they have there, and it's the John Goodman Amphitheater.
Oh man, wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, he's got his name on it. So he's been doing a lot of work there, and it's been great for the university. Brad Pitt, I think, did everything he could to get away from Springfield as fast as possible. Yeah. And I've heard that he actually calls Springfield, Missouri, Springfield Misery.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and one more little tidbit about BP. He went to Kickapoo High School there in Springfield, and then the locker he used at Kickapoo High School gets drawn off in a auction or a drawing for some lucky kid to get Brad Pitt's locker for the year, and it's this whole big unveiling event. Oh, I get to use Brad Pitt's locker 30-40 years after he used it, and they still celebrate that at Kickapoo High School apparently.
Are you serious?
Totally true story.
I did not know that. That is insane.
Yeah. So his legendary status still lives on from where he went to high school.
I mean, having kids myself that are, tweens, it's kind of like, I don't even know if kids today really know Brad Pitt.
Exactly. It's like, who cares?
He's a great actor. He's still relevant, but adults know him. But kids, it's like if they look up from their phone for 5 minutes, they seem like they don't really know actors very much anymore.
Yeah,
so,
and I don't think
that's crazy.
Yeah, and I just a little tidbit about good old Springfield there and a big old famous actor.
Yeah, and you went to Kickapoo too, didn't you?
No, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. Went to Lafayette High School in St. Louis, but went to college and MSU and just stayed there a good amount of time. Stayed there the right amount of time, then I left Springfield.
Right. And so, let's tell our listeners a little bit more about who we are now. We've kind of covered where we've been. Who are you, Brian? And what are you doing today?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
What is your life now?
Still trying to figure that out. I don't know who I am anymore. That's why I want to do a podcast, because I want to figure this all out, man. It's like personal.
It's a perfect time for a midlife crisis to be not televised, but put out onto the airwaves.
No, just give me a microphone, and I need to get some therapy in here. That's why we're doing this podcast too. So.
I charge $50 an hour.
Okay, it's worth it. It's worth it.
No, really though. What are you doing out there in Los Angeles, Brian?
Right. So went to MSU to be a teacher, and I got a teaching degree. I started teaching orchestra and helped out a little bit marching band at a couple of the high schools and the middle schools there in Springfield. Taught that for a while, and all during that time, I was always interested in composition. So I'd write these little compositions for the kids to play, largely technique based, what have you. And the kids are learning it, and they're becoming better players because of it. And then somebody said, "Hey, I want to play the music to Pearl Harbor." The movie, the soundtrack, the orchestral soundtrack. So I did a transcription of it, and then I started doing more of those. I did Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia. What was the other one? Harry Potter. We even did A Friend Like Me from Aladdin, had a choir sing with it. So I was doing these transcriptions and really getting in there and figuring out, oh, this is how movie scores work. This is why this sounds good. And I was like, oh man, and I'm writing my own little compositions, and yes, it's middle school and high school groups, but I'm getting it played and figuring out what works. I had a teaching degree. I did not have a composition degree. And so those last couple of years of teaching, I'm like, I'm going to be a film composer. And then your project of Dracula, the stage play, came around, and that kind of solidified the fact that I'm really going to give this a try, film composing and give it a go. So I just moved. I said, thank you, Springfield, for all the years, but I'm going to move to Los Angeles, try to be a film composer. And then I got a job pretty quickly.
Right. Well, we were going to move out there together, actually.
Right. There was a whole group of people ready to move out there because we're having such a great time.
Right after Dracula. We were all on that high from working on it.
It was such a great experience. And my first scoring gig. And this was like, hey, let's do this. Let's keep doing this. Everybody moved out. I think I was the only one. And then a few other people followed.
Right.
But, and so
we got pregnant. And
you got pregnant, life happens, and that's what happened. But when I moved here, I got a job pretty quickly at Family Guy as an orchestrator. So much fun doing that show. I love that show and just wanted to be a part of it. And we were working.
And that was like right off the bat, right?
Yeah, pretty close.
You got out there and got on that very quickly.
Yeah, I was just a fan of the show, and I was like, oh, music by Ron Jones in the credits, just watching the show. So I sent him an email, said, hey, you need somebody, you need an assistant, an orchestrator. And he's like, oh man, you don't want to do this. This is, you don't want to move here. It's awful. The film industry is terribly, so competitive. Don't even try, give up now. And, but if you're still willing to, give it a shot, give me a call when you get here. And so I met up with him at a Family Guy recording session, actually, and we're just hitting it off. And so he, and then I had to learn all this stuff to be on the show, a whole bunch of brand new stuff. And
like processes, or what did you have to learn?
Software, orchestration techniques, mixing and mastering. Had zero experience with all that. I was, lots of just audio engineering things that I'm very grateful he taught me, and I learned on the job with that one. And has since led to many other things, a whole bunch of independent films, other TV shows. We were on American Dad. I was on the TV show Timeless. But my biggest credit so far is orchestrator on Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And Tyler Bates composer for that one. But ever since then, just trying to find my own jobs, and I get a few tracks placed in TV shows like Lego Masters and Making It. I don't know if they're on the air anymore. The season might be over, but I get placements in little TV shows, cable shows, commercials now and then. But the ultimate goal right now is to get my own show to write music for.
Yeah. And you don't, in your side of that industry, you don't have agents or anything like that, right? That help you get work, do you? Are there such things as
Oh, yes. There are agencies. The Gorfain Schwartz is the one, the top one for composers. Like John Williams has an agent there and all this place.
Gorfain Schwartz?
Gorfain Schwartz, yeah. And but one thing I learned very quickly when I got here is you don't want to try and get an agent. When you get popular enough and you get good enough, they will seek you out and want to represent you, because they're constantly being hit by amateur beginning composers. Oh, please, I need an agent. I think I need an agent. It's like, no, you don't need one, because you're no good. Nobody knows you yet. And then when you do get good, they will seek you out. What you do want to get is a lawyer. So when you get these contracts, and they can read.
You can look them over and make sure you're not getting screwed.
And it's like, hey, tell me if this is a good deal or not. You pay the lawyer to read it to you or whatever and explain it, because it's all that legal jargon crap that I don't understand. It's like, pay a guy to read it for you, tell you if it's a good deal, and then that's how you kind of cover yourself as far as agency and everything. But you got to promote yourself, and even when you do get an agent, they don't do that much really. Ron's agent on Family Guy, all he did was make sure Ron got paid. You know, he wasn't looking. Ron was always looking for other jobs. He wanted to be, pop over into movies and everything. This guy didn't do any of that. So yes, there are agents, but it's only for well-established composers. Us still with the lowly orchestrator credits or meager composer credits, you still gotta represent yourself and promote yourself. So.
Well, and if you think about it, as far as the acting end, everybody's like, oh, actors are a dime a dozen, right? But if you think about how many actors it takes to comprise a movie, you've got the leads and you've got the secondary, the tertiary characters, you've got the day players, you've got the walk-ons, you've got this whole plethora of people who comprise the actors in a movie that could get a paycheck from that. You pretty much have one composer, maybe two that are working on a movie. So one movie, one composer. And you got to think that there's so many different people out there trying to do that job. That's got to be very crazily competitive. I mean, our side of it, because I'm an actor, our side of it, it's astronomically, difficult. It's like a miracle every time you get something because it's such a numbers game. It's like, I'm going to go for this, I'm going to go for this, I'm going to go for this. And you're just getting, bombarded with rejections. People go out of their way to reject you. And that's hard. That's hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's a difficult business. That's why that old adage of acting teachers telling their students, if you can see yourself doing anything else with your life, do that.
Right.
If this is what you must do, then you go ahead and do it. But otherwise, get out of it. That's like an old trope. But even my acting teacher in college said that to us.
No.
And I've said that to students that I was teaching too.
Yeah.
It's not easy. But you guys have it even worse.
Yeah.
I think, because maybe there's not as many people, I guess, as there are actors in the world. There might not be as many composers, but there's a lot, and there's only one of them for movies.
I don't know. It seems like every time I walk out the door, it's like, oh, I do music, and I got my music in this thing, or I'm a band, I'm trying to get my song into this show. It's like everybody's doing music, everybody's doing. I know you're horror movie guy, and we're talking about John Carpenter and how he does everything and does all the music. It's like there's people like that too that can just do a whole bunch of stuff, and they got some
David Lynch.
David Lynch, they got some training and they can do it themselves pretty damn well. So why not? And why hire another guy that you don't know and don't trust and
save the money?
So, and if you start composing music, we're done. I just want to tell you that. All right. So you
don't have to worry about that.
You got all this.
I failed music theory in college. I was a musical theater major for a very little bit, and I didn't do well in music theory. It just didn't hold my interest. I was also I didn't understand it. I barely made it through that class.
Okay, well, I feel a little bit better now because I was like, you do all this stuff. You're kind of like John Carpenter, an actor and writer, director. And it was like, if he even thinks about starting music, it's like, no, we're done. I'm the music guy,
You're the music guy, yeah. And on any project that I'm producing, you would be my music guy.
All right, that's settled then. Yeah.
I've only got two people I go to for music, But you're my OG, you're my original.
All right, man. Okay,
my original guy.
Good.
It just you were always busy, so sometimes I had to branch out and use other people.
That's the way it goes.
And you're big LA now, and I feel bad trying to hit you up for my piddly little. Paying pennies productions here in Chicago or back in Missouri, and you're out there working on Family Guy and Marvel movies. So, but it's a difficult industry to be in because so much of it doesn't rely on how hard you work. I mean, you can work really, really hard and still you're always relying on somebody else to give you the opportunity, right? We're always waiting for somebody else to give us the opportunity. So the most ideal thing is to just do it yourself, create your own work, create your own, projects. That's why I kind of figured that out early on. But then you get in the rut of like, well, I want to do something bigger, and you can only get bigger incrementally when you're doing it yourself, because then there's money and you're like, well, how do I get money? So then there's that whole business aspect of the industry, which is the majority of the industry is business.
Yep.
And we're all art, we're like, well, I want to do something that's meaningful to me. As an actor, do I want to play a poop emoji? Hell no. Do I get those auditions? Yes. I actually had an audition for a voiceover to do a poop emoji that sang.
Oh, we did.
For a very prominent card company.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, I'll audition for this. And then they get back to me and they're like, can you sing for a callback? And I'm like, Yeah, sure. So then I'm singing for this stupid callback to play a poop emoji, and I didn't even get it. And it's like, good God, I'm not even a piece of shit.
I can't even book the poop emoji gig.
I can't even book the poo-poo. Yeah, and so I start doing other things, and I have Arcane, my company, which is like a like-minded guild of crazy people that like dark and mysterious things. So we create our own things, and I get a crazy idea of something I want to do, and we'll interactive gaming. Let's develop this, or a new play. Let's develop this. Like we did, Dracula. That's how we met. Well, we actually met before that, working on a really bad musical at Parkview High School where you were teaching, and I had met you because you were the music director there, and I got brought in to direct the show because that was my alma mater. Yep. I had graduated 3 years prior, and we met on that. But you and I just clicked because we were like, we had bigger ideas than what what it was.
Than Clue the musical. Yes.
Yeah, that was Clue the musical, which is not a great musical. Great movie, not a great musical, because the musical is not based on the movie. It is based on the source material, which is a board game.
Right.
And it's just cheesy music.
Oh, but
we did so much cool stylistic stuff with it that we really made it fun.
Yeah.
But then we developed Dracula, and I used a script that was already in existence, Stephen Dietz's version of Dracula. We got the rights to that. I loved it. I still think that's the best stage adaptation of Dracula that is out there. It's the closest to the source material to the book, and I love the book.
Yeah.
And then but I wanted it to be scored like a film, which I had never been a part of a play that did that before, other than a musical. But I wanted it to be completely underscored, and you were just right there, and we developed it, and you were there at all the rehearsals, and it was just such a collaborative, crazy, creative time. We get lost in it. That's what I love about movie making or theater too, is the creative process and kind of leaving reality and living in this little microcosm together for a while, where sometimes it's the hardest, most difficult shit you've ever done in your life.
Yeah. But
when you step back from it, you're like, God, that was the best and the worst time I've ever had. It was the most stress I've ever been under, but it was the best thing. So I grew as a person, as a soul from doing it. You know?
I remember where the tech stuff was all the way in the back of the theater. It was this table where the lights and the sound and you sat up there, and the stage manager sat up there, whatever. And I love just sitting up there every single night and watching the show go on. I'm hitting everything was on a CD player, believe it or not. I hit play and stop.
This is back in.
Yeah, I know. Yes. So I'd hit play and stop where music's supposed to go, and then I had a keyboard hooked into the sound system, so that there was I think maybe 5.
So you could do live stuff.
Some of the stuff had to be played live. a very small percentage of it, but that I love sitting back there and making it happen. It's a live show. It was never once boring, mostly because it was our creation, and had this huge following. It was very successful. So yeah.
So technically difficult too. I mean, we had over 200 and something light cues for that play, basically it's a community theater, space, but we ran it like it was a professional production. It was a bunch of college kids putting it on. You had graduated already. We were super seniors. Most of us had been seniors for at least 2 years in the theater and dance department at Missouri State University.
Yeah.
And there was 5 or 6 of us that got together and did that. And we did it all ourselves. We put up the money. We did everything, It was insane, that first one. And we did it again later, but it was, there was just such a love and passion for the work, staying overnights to build the sets and you kind of lived. I almost got a divorce during that show.
Oh, really?
Because I was never home. I mean, later we did get divorced, but that show almost did us in because I was gone all the time.
Right.
I never was home. I only cared about the show, and I wasn't even caring about school stuff, we all got on academic probation during that time too.
Oh.
But not because we were bad, but because the department at the time got their feathers ruffled because we got a new department head in, and I don't know, one of the teachers got mad because we had all been told, we had been promised it was okay for us to take time away from the theater and do that show and produce it ourselves. So we couldn't do one show. It was a Shakespeare play. They were going to do Merchant of Venice, and none of us could audition for it because we were putting up a show at the same time. But the teachers didn't like that, and so they tried to get revenge on us, and like the people that were in charge at the time, the head of the acting program, got together and did called us all in and put us all on departmental probation.
What?
And
man.
had to have a whole meeting about it. And he was threatening freshmen that were in the show. He was trying to get people not to audition. He was telling them, if you audition for that play and you get into it, you will be kicked out of the department.
I remember you telling me about this now.
I saw it in emails. And then later, and he told me that he told them that because I went and had a meeting with him in his office. And then we had a big departmental meeting because that's against the rules. They can't threaten students like that.
Right.
So then we had a meeting. And when we had the meeting at the department, none of these people are there anymore. Everybody's gone now. It's a complete turnover in the department. But he lied in front of everybody and said he never said that.
Oh,
I never said that. And it's like, I saw the emails, and you told me to my face that you told all those students that, and that you would tell them that again. We almost got into like a yelling match about it.
Jeez.
And I don't cause a stink with people, and I never wanted to go up against the administration, but I found myself at odds with the administration there a couple of times during my long 8.5 years I was in college and didn't get a degree.
Well, and it
was crazy. I was there for 8.5 years getting a BFA in acting, and I still don't have that BFA in acting.
Oh, really? Oh, man, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I never graduated. I just I had to go, We had a baby, and then the school wouldn't give me any more, they wouldn't allow me to get any more, any more financial aid. And I think it was because of a couple of things that, I had been there so long, they were kind of like, it doesn't seem like you're serious about school.
Oh.
Like, yeah, I'm taking all these classes. I just didn't take classes I had to take to graduate. I took all these great other classes. I toured Europe with a choir, and
I
did all this stuff. I took film classes and theory classes and stuff, and I just didn't graduate.
All right. Well, they only have a 54% graduation rate at MSU.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that seems pretty low.
That's not good. That
seems
pretty bueno. Yeah, that does seem pretty low. But I mean, I think that's happening more and more these days.
Yeah.
But, going back and looking at that, like we were talking about creativity, I wouldn't have traded that for the world. I learned more from doing that production that we put together.
Couldn't agree more.
All the other things I produced in my life myself, I've learned more doing that than I learned in school, than I've learned anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a proponent of going to school. I enjoyed school a great deal. I enjoyed college. I would go back again if I could afford it.
Yeah.
But there's no way I'm ever going to be able to afford it.
Couldn't agree more. When I was,
No,
I was just on the teaching side of things. I remember I could probably count 5-6 classes that completely useless and never used once when I was a teacher. That was
right. And you guys had to... The education classes, you guys had to do like 2 or 3 times more work and take more classes than anyone else.
And they
had in the music department too.
Yeah.
You had classes that were like 3 days a week, but only counted for one credit hour.
You're exactly
That's
right.
insane.
Yeah, and I
like why?
Yeah, and why do you have to take theory classes to be a teacher? I enjoyed it because I liked the composition side, but you had to take theory classes. You had to take theory 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that theory 4 is not easy stuff. Why does a music teacher need to learn that stuff? But other just general education classes that we're sitting in the classroom like, this is nothing. I'm going to use this. I'm not going to use this for anything. And I didn't. I even knew it while I was in the classroom. I was like, this is nothing about this is worth anything. And so my first year of teaching, I almost got fired because I wasn't very good. And then I just kind of sweet talked my way the second time around to the principal. I said, please give me another chance. I really want to improve. So I learned how to be a teacher while I was a teacher. And now the same thing as composing thing. Working on Dracula, I was like, I got to create music for this thing, but I didn't have a composition degree. I was writing music beforehand and everything, but I learned how to do it by doing it. And that's 10 times better than some class where you're doing it for grade and some of these classes that don't even apply to what we're doing. So.
Right. I learned video editing on my own. I taught it myself how to do it because I wanted to. I learned special effects makeup when I was in middle school. I started doing it and got my first gig then, and I've been doing that ever since because I had an interest in it. And back then, you couldn't find a school that would really teach you any of that, like anywhere in the country. Like you'd have to go to a specific school, and I was way too young to do that. So, sorry about my dog. But so I had to teach myself, and actually with this podcast that I run, the Frightmare Theater podcast, that we have, it was a project I wanted to do. We wanted to do it as a TV show, like if we got money, we'd do it on television, like public access or something. Yeah. But we couldn't do it on public access because we don't have any money. So we were like, let's do a YouTube web series, like we had done with Shadowbound. Yeah. And I was like, let's do that. And then it was like, no, because you have to pay to get all the actors there all the time, and just doing that on a regular basis, it's like maybe we get one season out and then we'd burn out.
Right.
So I'm like, how can we make this go for the long haul? Well, let's do an audio drama because it's cheap to produce and you can make it like a movie for your ears. Plus, we all loved old horror radio shows.
Right.
And I love those. And so I'm like, well, you could do a lot of cool stuff and really make something pretty terrifying like this. But when I brought on a sound guy, but he was just too busy. He was so busy. He couldn't keep up with the workload. And I gave him a long time, but it was like 6 months we developed the show for a year before any episode ever got released.
Wow.
And we were recording stuff. Well, he couldn't keep up with it. So I had to let him go, and I had to learn myself how to do everything. So now I'm doing all the production end of that show out of necessity. But I've learned so much. I've learned so much about audio and about layering and about, how sound and music integrate into a film, into anything like that. And it's helped me. I now have a greater understanding of when I'm doing theater, how to integrate sound effects and, and layering sounds and all sorts of stuff. It's amazing that how necessity really can just drive your creativity through the roof. And I've grown so much by having to, saying, yeah, okay, I can do that. And then not knowing how the hell I'm going to do it, but figuring it out on the job.
No, it does. What's that one phrase? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Right. Yeah. Who said that?
I forget. I just remember the phrase. I don't know who said it, but
right. No, I remember that. Necessity is the mother of invention. Right.
I was like, you need this, so you got to figure out how to make it, how to invent it, whatever it is.
Fake it till you make it. You hear that too, and it's
on the
it's
job.
very true. I feel like every day I'm doing that.
Yeah, on the job training. I had no idea how to mix stuff. I had no idea how to use instrument samples. I learned all of that on Family Guy, getting paid to do it on Family Guy, and I would not be.
Hey, at least you got paid to do it.
Yeah, I know. So, and that's what I tell people all the time. Every time, once in a while, I get a college student or another teacher friend of mine. They got a student interested in compositions. Hey, give this guy an email or a call, and I say, well, start doing it. Yes, go to college, finish college. Okay, I'm not saying don't go to college, but start making stuff, real stuff, and you will learn a whole lot more than going to class. Not that you don't learn anything in class, but the real stuff.
And everybody finds. I think, as far as school goes, I'm torn these days because I would never tell somebody not to go to school, but I'm also equally not going to tell somebody that they should go to school. I think it's very much on a case-per-case basis, and I think it's very much on how tenacious are you about learning? Do you need a structured environment to learn, or can you do online classes, or like pick up things here and there and buy the equipment and teach yourself? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Anytime somebody's in the hallway, he goes nuts.
Okay.
Can you do you need to go to school to have that structured environment, or are you tenacious enough to kind of pick this up on your own? Yeah. When people ask me a lot about like, oh, well, where did you learn makeup? Where did you learn special effects stuff? And back then there was no YouTube. I said that word. There was no YouTube. There was no YouTube. There was nothing like that. But now there is, and there's some great people out there just showing you how to do all this stuff. And it's like, oh my God, if I had this when I was a kid, Jesus, it would have been amazing. But I was watching special features on the backs of VHS tapes, after the movie, you'd buy the special edition that had a little 30-minute behind the scenes thing, watching over and over and over again, Thriller in the Making, getting tutorials, watching any special that was on TV, on HBO, or anything that you can to get your head around it, and then getting freaking books. Remember those?
Yeah.
Getting books, that had this stuff in it. and looking at it and then just getting makeup and playing with it and figuring it out and like, oh, I want to do this. And I made some horrible mistakes and almost disfigured myself. I don't know how many times. And other people, I one time used a Brillo pad to take makeup off and I like scraped off all my skin on half my face.
Oh my God,
I let some kid
dude.
talk me into that. It was dumb. It was a dumb move, but I was in middle school. What did I know? Now I'm almost 40. What do I know? But, nowadays you can learn a lot on your own, but there's still something to be said about having formal education and accreditation, things like that. There is, having a degree, having a certificate. But if you're skilled enough and if you're personable enough and you're professional enough, you show up, you do the work, you get it done, and you do a really good job doing it.
Yeah.
That goes a long way. The fact that I've never gotten my degree has never hindered me in getting a day job or getting there's been some people that have asked me to teach at a university, and that's the only thing that I haven't been able to do because I don't have my degree, so I can't teach at a university.
I see.
And they're like, oh, well, because I've been invited to go and teach or give workshops even at universities. I can't even do that as a staff member or anything. You have to have at least a degree, an associate's or something at most universities, I think, to at least even be a staff member, where you
staff.
teach people.
I'll
go in. I can do workshops. Okay. I can get invited in to do workshops and give lectures and stuff, and I've done that. And I do that a lot for camps, film camps that for high school kids. There's an international film camp here at Northwestern University, and I've taught there multiple summers. That's a pretty cool program that they do. And I always do like a makeup workshop or whatever, but I'm getting out of doing makeup now because I haven't been keeping up with my education, and that industry changes every year. And now there's just so many great products out there and things that it's like, I can't keep up. I'm still doing stuff like Tom Savini was doing back in the 80s, like buildups and stuff like that. It's like in my, I just don't have the passion for it that I used to keep progressing there. Now I'm more into acting and writing and producing, and directing. Those are my things that that I can focus on. And life gets in the way, It's like, I mean, I know that you don't have a wife and kids and, things like that and a dog and stuff. You want to have a dog. But,
I want to have a dog, but yeah.
But it's still, life gets in the way, and you start going, oh my God, bills, and oh my God, stress, and oh my God, car payments, or whatever the hell you got going on in your life. Yeah. And it's like, how can I fit in the creativity with it too? And I have to work a day job, I work, a typical 9-to-5 day job, which sometimes is more because I'm a manager, a project manager where I work. And, so I do that, and then I have this whole other life outside of that that's also a full-time job, and trying to keep up with the kids and my wife and stuff like that. So it's
4 full-time jobs right now. All those are full-time jobs.
Yeah, but you keep the passion alive as best you can. But things do start to go. I've thought about this a lot. As you get older, I think we all start to look at our lives and go, when. Because I've always been one of those people that my parents were great, and they were always like, you could do anything you want in this life. You could do anything you want. And I believe that. And parts of me still believe that. But there's another part of me that's like, well, yeah, but shit, dude, if you haven't done it yet, you're not going to do it. And that's the death of creativity and art too, though, in some ways, but it's also good to be practical. I don't know. I'm very torn on this, Brian, because I go a lot and go into this, one day I'm going to do this. One day I'm going to do this. But if you do that too much, you're looking ahead so much that's like, well, when are you going to put the work in to actually attain that?
Exactly.
I
couldn't agree more. I have the same exact thoughts. I'm 46, and and I've been here.
46? Good God! No.
Yeah. I know, but I can't believe it sometimes. Like, what the hell? What?
You don't look 46. You look like a nubile 38.
I know. I can still pass for 36 maybe sometimes. I still get carded.
No, you can. I don't even see very many gray hairs on your head.
They're there. The camera, I don't think no, I got a special filter that filters out gray hair. So. No, I'm kidding.
Well, and also you don't have a beard. Can you grow a beard?
I can. There's a little scruff right here, but It looks terrible.
I've never seen you with facial hair.
It looks. I tried it a couple times in college. It just looks terrible and patchy. It's not thick like yours at all.
It's the Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves.
It looks so bad. I was
like a dog with mange.
I was like, I'm so like if I go out unshaven, I'm so glad I have to wear a mask because it looks so terrible. And I should have been wearing. I should have been wearing masks all along when I was unshaven because it looks that bad. But I try to keep clean shaven most of the time. Yeah.
I have a twin brother, and he can't grow facial hair, which is weird. But my dad and all my uncles, they can grow a beard, and I've always wanted to have a beard. And I have a pretty full beard, but it's turning white. A lot of it is turning white. I'm 39. I'll be 40 in April. Yeah. And and I've got a couple of little holes in it that never grows. Yeah. But for the most part.
So I just gave up trying.
But you've always looked young, and maybe that's because you have a cherubic face.
Yeah. Well, I get that all the time. No, I was in a 7-Eleven just getting beer, and this guy goes, "Oh, you can't buy beer." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
He was like 46.
I was like 44 at the time. This was a couple of years ago, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You're not old enough." I was like, "I'm 44," and he's just total shock that I'm 44 years old. I was like, "Look at me. Do I look
Benjamin Buttons?
Yeah. Do I look 18?" I'll show you some pictures of me at 18. I was like, I do not look 18. I was like,
when you were 18, you look like an infant.
Right. 18. I looked like I was 5. So
you were a Lindsay.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I did decide that last year. I was like, I had enough getting older, so I'm just going to go. I'm a Benjamin Button this from now on. Just get younger. It's enough aging.
Yeah. Hey, if you can do it, if it works for you,
it's just a mindset. Reverse the clock. Come on, go backwards.
I share that mindset with me. It's difficult. It's weird getting older, and but especially I think around our age, because we're in our late 30s, early to mid 40s. At that time, you're like, well, I'm not a young man anymore, but I'm not an old man, and I don't even feel like I'm midlife, although I've had like 6 midlife crises, I think, since starting in my 20s.
Right.
But I'm a neurotic person. But like, it's
I'm in my head all the time.
Yeah, it's weird because when you get to this age, you're like, you start to go, well, and I think our society is speeding up so fast right now. It's like people now, we are older feeling because we're so out of touch with the younger generation that would normally take 20 or 30 years to get to. It took us 10 because of how fast information changes these days. So it's like my kids, were the generation under me. It's almost like I feel like they're grandfathers sometimes because of how different the world is in our two scopes, right?
Yeah.
And that's weird. That's a weird thing to get your head around.
Yeah.
Because I think that's always happened, but it usually takes everybody longer. Like it took longer for my parents to feel like, because they're only 20 years older than we are. They had us when they were 20.
Oh, okay.
And I think it took them less time to feel ancient to us, like even in high school and when we were in early college, it still felt like they were young parents who were still very vibrant and vital and like understood the younger generation. I mean, they were both like youth pastors in their church for a long time, because back then it seemed like, I don't know, there wasn't as much of a gap, but today it's like, I mean, I went to yesterday actually, and I went on a field trip to the Field Museum with my son's class as a volunteer, which that was crazy. I've never done that before, but I was like, I'll volunteer to go to the Field Museum. And I had 5 rowdy kids. They gave me all the bad kids, which my son is one of the quote unquote bad kids. He's hyperactive, so of course teachers don't know how to deal with him. He's a great kid. He's amazing. He's super creative. He's awesome, but he's a troublemaker, and I got all the troublemakers. So I had 4 troublemakers in this 5 troublemakers in this museum that I was wrangling the whole time.
Oh boy!
But I felt so old compared to them, and it's just weird because I don't feel like an old man when I just think of myself. When I think of myself, I still think of myself like I'm just, that last third senior year of college or something.
I know.
Other than being overweight and not having a lot of energy anymore that I used to have, I don't feel old. I just think that's stress, and being sitting on my ass for 2 years because of COVID.
Right. I couldn't,
not getting out.
Couldn't agree more. I put on at least 15 pounds, during COVID. I got to work it off.
I'll see you're 15 and I'll raise you another 15.
Another 15. All right. Yeah.
No, that's me, not you.
Oh, okay.
You'll agree.
Okay. Yeah. No, but
I'm Jabba the Hutt over here in a flannel.
Oh boy. Well, as I put on some of my favorite jeans, I was like, oh man, don't fit.
I know.
I was like, that's the worst feeling.
I know.
So, but
I got a whole closet of don't fit these days.
I completely agree with you about getting older and not being connected to the younger people. Even the last couple of years of teaching, there were some students saying something, and I didn't get it. Like I didn't get the joke. Like there was a younger, that's the one I really felt old, in that. There's a joke the kids are saying, which I was always getting, but then this last couple of years, I'm like, I don't understand why that's funny, and they're like speaking some other language, and I'm like, man, I'm getting old.
Oh, it's worse now, Brian. It's worse now. I know you're not in education, but like having these kids and like they're getting on TikTok and these different Snapchat and stuff. And it's like I do Instagram, I do Facebook. I try. I'm not on Facebook as much as I used to be. I only just promote my shit on there. I don't get on there like I used to be addicted to it, and I was very manic and crazy and depressed all the time because it's, the world is an insane place.
Yeah.
And I'm a big advocate for getting away from social media if you can, but I still get on there and check things and Twitter and stuff like that. But the kids these days, they're getting onto like TikTok and shit like that. And it's like my son will come up to me. First of all, they don't watch TV shows. They don't watch movies. They watch freaking YouTube, little YouTube things. And they're like, oh, it's such a great show. And I'm like, that's not a show. That's some guy screaming into a microphone playing a video game. That is not a show.
Right.
It's obnoxious, and turn it off. Not at my house. But they come up to me and like my son Finn, he'll show me something on his phone and he's so proud of it, right? He's so proud. He's like, oh, look at this. This is so funny. This is so funny. I'm glad I found this, Dad. And I look at it and I'm like, what am I looking at?
Right.
Like, this makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah.
It's neither funny nor unfunny. It doesn't mean a thing.
Right.
It's like, what is this? And he's like, well, don't you get it? And I'm like, no, it's a series of noises and a clip that the sound doesn't seem like it even match. I don't understand. What is this?
Yeah.
And I've just given up because he'll explain it to me and he's laughing as he explains it to me. And I'm just like, I don't even understand your explanation, sir. I'm gone. Like, it's like we might as well be speaking two different languages and one not of Earth.
Yeah, there's one alien language that's taken over the younger generation, and they're going to take over the world eventually, and then.
And that's terrifying.
That's terrifying.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's a little terrifying. But there's some great things about the young generation. At least they're open-minded people for the most part. I can't say as much for some of their parents, but
oh boy. Well, that's one thing I kind of glad I'm not a teacher anymore with phones and the what you're saying with all that. I was like, I would go insane with that. I was even little trouble with that. People were bringing in little players and stuff and playing stuff in class. I'm like, this is a music class. I don't want to hear anything else except what we're playing on our instruments, and just driving me insane with those little things. But now everybody's got a freaking phone, so it'd be 100 times worse.
Well, I mean, and just the current and we're not going to get into politics or anything on this show, but the current political climate and social climate that we're in, plus all of that stuff, it is like it's designed for the world to be against education, it seems like.
Right.
And like I feel so deeply for all of the teachers out there at any level of the education process, from the wee little kids all the way up to college and like, advanced degrees to like in the master's programs and the doctorate programs. It's like, I don't know how you do it. It takes a special person to be not only do it, but to stick with it for as long as they are, with all the bullshit they have to put up with.
Yep.
Like, I mean, different administrations coming in and out of the White House and out of state and local governments and things like that. And like constantly just like, oh, I've got an idea. Oh, I've got an idea. Everybody's got an idea of how they're going to change things, and everybody implements their ideas, and everybody has to be heard. And because of that, it's like, it's great that everybody's being heard, but it's also like this ping pong of like, what are we going to do this month? What are we going to do? And then they're not getting raises. They're not, I mean, ugh.
Don't have to sell me on that. That's another reason I got. That was the reason I got out of it. Number one, I didn't really love doing it. I just kind of did it because my mom was a teacher, my brother was a teacher, and I needed to do something with music. So I'll be a teacher. Right. But then what you're saying, you're constantly had to go to these professional development meetings where you're supposed to learn to be a better teacher. You get zero out of it. But if you don't go, then you don't get bumped up on the salary ladder for the next year. So you have to go to these things, which are just a complete waste of time. I don't know how many faculty meetings, committee meetings I was on and in that did nothing for me at all except waste time. Parents getting in the mix and doing all that stuff. So there, yes, I want to do the composition thing, but there was a whole lot of reasons to kind of get out of that profession for myself. But yeah, my brother stuck with it. He's almost ready to retire, and he's been in it 30 years. He taught high school marching band. He's ready to be done though. He's been doing a long time.
I would have been ready to be done 20 years ago, man.
Yeah. So kudos to those people that stick with it because it's rough.
It's rough. It's so rough. I just feel, it's like, and I can't even imagine. Brian, I can't even imagine what it would be like.
And I did.
That. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I did keep track of how many hours I spent teaching for a month. I kept very precise records, and it was less than minimum wage. It was like $1 under minimum wage, the amount of money I was getting paid for the amount of hours I was putting in.
I'm sure.
It's awful.
Oh my God. I know some of the things that my son's teachers and my other child's teachers that they do, that all the work that they put in outside of
that's what I mean.
The classroom and their own money that they have to pay for things to keep the classrooms afloat and all this stuff. And I mean, it's crazy. And my kids go to public schools, they're not private school kids, but it's like the money and here in Chicago, the school systems, it's weird, and they go to some good schools, but still, it's I don't know, that the education system, it's just so difficult, and it's a cultural thing too, because I don't think that we would be able to fix that without fixing certain aspects of our culture, and not necessarily the American culture, the world culture, global culture of how we perceive information and how we listen to each other, because I don't think that we listen anymore as a human species. We put out into the world a hell of a lot.
Too much.
We put out into the world all the time. Oh, I have a feeling about this, and because I want to be heard and because I deserve to be heard, I want to use any platform, and we all have platforms to get this out. We're here doing a podcast. So
yes, exactly. But it's like what we're doing here. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But other people, it's the same thing. It's like everybody has that, great. But we're just waiting to say the next thing as opposed to actively listening. And I mean, I've always had a problem with that. I'm an Aries. I'm a very aggressive person when it's, but I've had to learn, and my wife teaches me this a lot, is, shut up, Nathan. Shut up and listen, and really listen, actively listen before thinking about how you're going to respond. And that is a life lesson, I think, for us all. Yeah. It's definitely something I haven't mastered, but as a species, we've gone even further, and that pendulum is swung so far over to the other side. Yeah. It's like nobody's listening to each other. There's no common ground. It's, I'm going to feel one way or another about what you're saying, and I'm waiting for the ticking point for you to hit that mark for me to go, "Mwah," or yeah, or whatever, rather than just going, okay, that's what you think. That's what you believe. Right. It's hard.
Yeah. And it's just what you're saying earlier. There's so much content out there to listen to, YouTube, TikTok, streaming services, TV shows, movies, news, and everything. There's so much stuff to watch and listen to. You just kind of bury your head maybe into one thing, or like you're saying, just sample a little bit of it and try to figure it out without that. But I think that's largely affecting the communication, is the amount of information that's out there, the amount of content that's out there that, and a lot of it just has little to no meaning. What you were saying earlier, that video your son was showing you, it's like, why am I watching this? It's a complete waste of time, space, and energy.
Well, but I wonder if that's another thing is, I find myself needing to shut down mentally. Yeah. It's it's a form of depression, I think, or anxiety that you need to shut down. Like sometimes it's like, man, I just got to take a nap. Just not even because I'm necessarily tired, but because I'm tired of being awake. Yeah. I'm tired of being bombarded with information or having to deal with things. And I think we do that whether or not we're actually like being subconscious, like sleeping. We just numb ourselves with whatever we like media that we're consuming, but we're not really actively paying attention to the media either. We're just kind of like, funny, ha ha ha, you know?
Well, and your brain can only make so many decisions in the course of a day before it starts affecting you physically. I forget the science about it or whatever. Like, if you're constantly making decisions all day long, eventually you're just going to, you're physically going to be tired. That's why people like Einstein and, John Williams, big famous composer, Steve Jobs, they always wore the same clothes every day because that's a few less decisions that they had to make during the course of a day. And they're working at such a high level of genius, all these people. And it's like, I'm just wearing the same clothes every day. Those decisions are done so I can focus on my job and do everything. But that's a real thing.
That's why I wear the same pajamas every freaking day.
There you go.
The last 2 years. It's because I'm a genius and I just need to not make as many decisions.
You already know. See, you're already on
I wear
it,
the same. I've got 3 T-shirts that I go between and my jammy pants, and I roll out of bed and I do my work and I go back to bed.
There you go. See, that's now you're saving yourself a few.
I'm too genius.
There you go. You've already figured it out. So that's. But that I remember doing. I remember working. Just some days working really hard and writing a composition or something and interacting with the software and answering emails and text messages and every day. I was like, I'm so tired. What'd I do? I just sat on my ass all day, but I'm just physically tired from all the decision making. But I wore different clothes that day, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, man. Well, so with this podcast, because we're sitting here talking about like media going out there and everything, and this is when we get together and we talk, since we're so far away from each other now, it's good to connect and we kind of synthesize the world that's going on around us and our late 30s, early 40s, being in the entertainment industry, and yet trying to make a living, scratching out our life for ourselves, still wanting more than what we have, but loving some of the things that we do have and not loving other things that we do have. And, the struggles of life and living and what it means to be an artist and be a creative. That's what I think this show's about. I think that's why we wanted to share that and create something else. And so we thought, let's broadcast our conversations that we have, and maybe you as a listener out there might want to join in the conversation with us. You might want to interact and let us know what you think. And so when we put these out there, we'd love to hear from you on social media. We'll be creating an account here and getting this out. And we welcome feedback. Join us on the conversation. Maybe we can get some people in on this every once in a while, some subject matter experts or something to talk about certain things. Yeah. I don't think we have a genre necessarily for the show. It's going to be, whatever. We both have varied interests in all sorts of weird things, and from time to time, I think when we get together and we talk, the conversations could veer into all sorts of arenas,
that's all I wanted.
Really about connection.
That's all I wanted. I wanted to talk more, connect more, and if the conversation goes a certain way, it goes that way. I don't want to really plan out anything too much on this thing, but just have a good conversation and send it out there and see what happens. So.
Yeah, I love it. And I love, connection with people is, I think, so much of what we need. Especially after this pandemic. But, and it's so nice to connect with you again, and be able to talk and have this. And I think if we can connect with other people out there, even as just listeners, even if you don't interact with us, it's nice. It's nice to hear real people talking about real things and, the dreams and the life and the good things and the bad things and everything in between. And I think being real with each other is the most important thing. Yeah. Sharing experiences of what it means to be human, what it means to be alive, what it means to be a creative soul, and the connection that we have with each other. Nothing else, when all is said and done, when your life is over, that's what's going to matter, the people, the connections that you've made. And we always want to make this great art and stuff, and that's great, but what does it matter if there's nobody that experiences it with you, that you don't go through that stuff with someone, or that your art doesn't mean anything to anybody or even yourself? Things can be hollow. So our goal my goal in life is always to have meaning behind something that I do. And so getting here with you and chatting and with this new show that we're doing, it's we don't know if anybody's going to listen. And if you are listening, fantastic. We're so glad you're here. If you're not listening, then you can't even hear my voice right now anyway.
That's fine. It's going to be what it is. If you want to enjoy it and have listen to the show, that's great. If not, that's fine too. It's just we're doing this for our own selves. But if anybody, like you're saying, if anybody else wants to join in. Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
whatever you want to talk.
Whatever you want to start a Discord and chat with you guys on there too. But Brian, I think we should wrap it up here today because we're rapidly getting close to this hour-long mark.
Yeah,
so,
that's enough for today.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up, and want to thank everybody out there for listening. Brian, always a pleasure to see you and to talk to you, and thanks for holding me to the coals on this and like really being like, hey, we got to do this. We've been talking about it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for doing that, and for always being a real person and talking about the big things. It's good. It's good to talk about the big things with somebody.
Couldn't agree more. So glad to be doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, love you, buddy. We'll talk next time. Okay.
All right. Talk to you later, man.